Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. This movie is directed by George Miller, who directed all the other Mad Max films in this franchise, and the movie stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. Now, when a young Furiosa is taken from her home, the place of abundance, and her mother is killed by the warlord Dementus, he brings her life nothing but pain and suffering. So then Furiosa dedicates her whole life for revenge on Dementus. Now, when I first heard they were making another Mad Max movie, I got real excited because for more or less the Mad Max films have all been good. Mad Max Fury Road was awesome, but then I saw the trailer and I found out the name of this movie and I was thinking, oh boy, not this again. But then I saw the inclusion of Chris Hemsworth as this crazy character known as Dementus. We saw the inclusion of Immortan Joe in snippets of the trailer, and I was asking myself, are we going to finally get to see the exploration of this world, more of the Citadel? Are we finally going to get to see Gastown and the Bullet Farm? Are we going to find out why Furiosa lost her arm? And are we going to discover why Furiosa hates Immortan Joe so much? Well, having seen the movie, I can honestly say that we got the answers to most of those questions. Was this movie as good as Mad Max Fury Road? No, but it was never meant to be. And while this film was good, it wasn't great. Here's why. Now let me start with the acting in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, she's fine. And I say that because the actress, Anya Taylor-Joy, doesn't show up until about an hour into the movie. Before that, she's played by a younger actress who does a really good job as this silent and sad, yet also angry young girl. Anya Taylor-Joy shows up as an older Furiosa, and they do something neat in this movie where apparently they took CGI, and as the younger actress was in the movie, they took more and more of Anya Taylor-Joy's face with computer graphics, and they slowly put more Anya Taylor-Joy on her face, so that way when Anya Taylor-Joy finally showed up as older Furiosa, the transition seemed seamless, and it was pretty impressive. I would say that the eyes is what made this character so strong and so resilient, is the eyes. Anya Taylor-Joy has some pretty eyes, and her role as Furiosa was interesting because, like many of the other characters in the previous Mad Max films, her character doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. It's like they wanted her to be the strong, silent type, and if George Miller is continuing a trope from Max in the first film, Max in the second film, and then Tom Hardy in Fury Road, now Furiosa, then he's succeeded. But I don't think you should make your main character the silent, strong type if this character has to undergo all these traumatic things. If you can't understand what the character is thinking or what they're going through, then you've kind of lost your audience. Now, Chris Hemsworth as Dementus, he's really good. He's definitely over the top. He's a lot like the Joker, which I think we're kind of getting a little oversaturated with a Joker type character where you have this person who's seemingly crazy, yet when they want to have meaningful conversations with you, they can. So they have their wits about them, but they just do a whole lot of, bumbling, crazy stuff and just evil things because they can. I will say that outside of Thor, this is one of Chris Hemsworth's best roles. Of course, you have the Extraction movies, and then you have one of my favorite roles of his from a movie called Bad Times at the El Royale Hotel. There, he played this cult leader who was very just quiet and sadistic and very believable. Well, here, he ramps it up to 11. Here, he's wild and over the top with his loud, circus showman type voice, but also very nasally. Like, we're gonna go to the Bullet Farm, and we're gonna get all the gasoline from Gastown. Like, he's a wild man. He's a lot like Jason Momoa in Fast and Furious 10. Again, a character that is over the top, but when they want to have the meaningful conversations, that's when he really says these very poignant things, like everybody wants revenge for something. And that's what leads me to the plot of this movie. Now, this is a revenge story, but it's told in a very unique way. It's told from the perspective of the history man. Now, The History Man is a character in this film that has a bunch of writing all over his body, that he's like a walking dictionary. If someone needs a history or explanation or a definition of something, he's the old wise man that gives them the information. So the movie is told through narration of that character who has spoken and had conversations with Furiosa. So, because of that, the plot is not 100% guaranteed truth and factual, which I'll get into in a little bit. But it's very interesting because a lot of these movies are just stories of Mad Max, stories from the wasteland. It reminded me But with the interesting narrative, you also have this movie told in 5 chapters. The titles of the chapter, I've seen the movie multiple times now, and I don't get the titles. They didn't carry any meaning for me, and it's kind of hard to decipher what stands out in each chapter to designate said title. Also, the chapters really just seem to be a way of passing the time. Now, that's interesting because there's a scene where, I'll just say, a piece of anatomy is on this tree branch, and so it shows time elapsing, the sun coming up, the moon coming up, going down, and it shows this tree branch growing over time, almost like they sped up the frame rate. But if they can do stuff like that to show the passage of time, then why even bother with the chapters? It's to show time going by and location changing, but that's it. And another thing, with the story and the narrative, that's all great, but there's certain things in this movie that just made no sense after watching it. Where, I'll just say, for example, a character decides to run away from something. And, okay, this area that they run away from is pretty impenetrable. And this character's going to run away, and everyone involved with this area is just going to be okay with it. And then, for instance, Furiosa, she becomes the Praetorian. How? How does she become in charge of the war rig, and how does she get to work alongside Praetorian Jack, another character I'll get to in a moment? Just certain things don't add up in the narrative of the movie. Also, when she loses her arm, it's a cool moment, but it kind of doesn't make any sense. Like, she loses her arm, and then what happens to the character? Where does she go? How does she escape? What happens to her? They show her moments later, along with another character that I did not expect to be in this movie that was also kind of confusing, but it added for a cool, holy crap moment, which was nice. Now, you have the character of Praetorian Jack in this movie. She's like the love interest of Furiosa. He's very one note. There's not a lot to this character. I guess it's to show that she still has, a human side and emotions. But I also think the only reason why this character, played by Tom Burke, is in this movie is to kind of show how Furiosa respects Mad Max later on in the future. That's my only guess. Other than that, he's just got the leather outfit with the shoulder pad, which I'm kind of getting over people wearing the classic Mad Max outfit with the shoulder pad when they're not Mad Max. I know it's a gripe, it's a nitpick, but that's just me. If you're not going to have Mad Max in your movie, don't have his clothing style. Also, this movie has some interesting elements and a character in this film that's not in Furiosa. And you're probably asking yourself, why? Well, it's because they're not there. Now, if you played the Mad Max video game from 2015, check it out, because it has certain characters, certain elements, certain vehicles, and certain things that connect the dots between Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and Mad Max Fury Road. Another thing that I had issue with this movie is the music. Aside from them throwing in small tidbits of the theme from Furiosa, the type music, the music is unforgettable in this movie. I couldn't tell you a certain lick of theme, I couldn't tell you any other song except for the music from Mad Max. So if you're going into this film expecting another Mad Max Fury Road, then you're going to be disappointed, because the storytelling and the message itself is vastly different. Some people would say that if Mad Max Fury Road was Mad Max 2 The Road Warrior, that Furiosa would be Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Others, and I can see the reasons why, would say that Mad Max Fury Road is Kill Bill Volume 1 with all the action, all the setup, and Furiosa is more Kill Bill Volume 2 with the slow narrative, the almost anticlimactic standoff between the hero and the villain. And I can see both sides. But I will say that Furiosa, a Mad Max story, hasn't been doing very well at the box office. And I can think of a couple reasons why. Partially because Mad Max Fury Road came out about 9-10 years ago. Cinema, audiences, moviegoers, and the way we watch films has changed a whole lot since then. Also, Mad Max Fury Road is a cult movie. I don't expect audiences to come out in droves, aside from people like me, to go see Furiosa. Also, George Miller had Furiosa's story and backstory and everything set up that he was going to film the two movies back to back, this and Fury Road, which would have been quite interesting. But because we had to wait almost 10 years for this movie, I feel like the direction should have changed. We should have gone forward with Max and his story. Really not backwards with Furiosa, a character a lot of people were disappointed was the main character in Mad Max Fury Road. I get it, Max has been the staple of 3 films before, but still, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So, because this movie told a different story, and it was interesting, but also could have been a recap or a short story or something a lot shorter than 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It was interesting. Anya Taylor-Joy is very attractive, and she's good in the lines of dialogue that she has, but Chris Hemsworth here steals the show. It's also nice to see Immortan Joe, the War Boys, and the Citadel, and all the things we've seen from the previous movie. So because of that, I'm going to give Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, a B-. It had some potential. It had some really cool moments and things that I really enjoy and probably will again over time. But as long as we have this movie, this film will always be second tier. So until next time, guys, see ya.